everyone, this is Mr. Joyner. It's come to my attention that many of you would like some kind of note-taking guide or some help with being able to take notes, or maybe even a better know how I want you to take notes. And then there are some others of you that you take excellent notes, and that may be a credit to your teachers or maybe even me, because many of you had me for biology, and I had taught you a method of taking notes, not to be boastful or anything. Now, most of the time I take the philosophy of everything I say will be on the exam, and I still do. But if you try to write down every single thing I say, you're going to miss some things, and you probably miss the main points that I'm wanting you to get. So I'll show you this method to help out. So when do I take notes, or what's the best time for taking notes? Well, sometimes you're taking notes just for class so that you'll be better prepared for tests and quizzes and things like that, or at college, or when the boss tells you something and you need to write it down because you want to follow those directions. Another time you need to take really good notes is when you want to just learn something new. Like maybe you're like, I want to know, how do you raise chickens? Because here I am and I'm kind of bored and I think I should be self-sufficient. So you start doing YouTubes and you watching it. And then before long, you forgot what you watched. So you watch it again. You forgot what you watched. And so you watched it again. And Mr. Drain, he told me, give me a pretty good example or tip. You watch the YouTube through once. Then you sit down with your piece of paper and watch the YouTube again, taking notes on things that you like, steps and things that you need. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I will kick this template out to you so that you can use. And then eventually you'll be using this all the time without even having to have a template. So this is called the Cornell note method. And it's also called the 2-column method. You always have your fancy little title so you can differentiate it from other notes that you've done and make it nice and neat. Also, you want your heading. Let me zoom in on that. With your name, your date, my name, or your teacher's name. The reason you want to do that is if you ever lose your paper or anything like that and someone comes across it, they know who to give it to. And your period and the class. So maybe first through seventh period and whatever your course is, okay? And then you want to make like about 3 finger space if you're using an 8.5 by 11 normal piece of paper. And that's going to be for your main ideas. And I'll give you more detail on that here in a second. And then your main body, I'll give you more detail on that. The main body supports the main ideas. And then finally, the summary, which is what you do after the teacher or whatever is done teaching, and you write your reflections or what you thought the whole overall thing was, and some other things that I will go over. Well, again, your fancy title and your heading, but also in the main ideas, you want to put your main ideas, your points, or maybe there's a lot of vocabulary, so you put the vocabulary term, not the definition and everything, but the vocabulary term. Any essential questions, which I know I do a lot of. I start and end my lessons with essential questions, so those definitely need to go in there. And then for the main body, you could, sometimes it does good to bullet them, bullet idea 1, bullet idea 2. Or you can have a hierarchy, much like you do on your papers you do in Word, where you got your Roman numeral and then A, and then sub 1 and sub A, or however you want to do it to organize your thoughts. If it is vocabulary term, you can write your definitions over in the main body. And if it is essential questions, you can write your answer in the main body. It's also good to note that, especially if you're a visual learner like me, that you do any graphs or diagrams that were in the lesson in this main body here. Also, special note is if the teacher mentions special dates, like in history or something, or if I'm talking about a scientist that contributed to the field of chemistry, and maybe I mentioned special date, special details, or even examples. All of that would be things that would go in the main body. So we're not trying to get like every single word, just the main things that stand out. And another good thing to do is if you've got some kind of shorthand you're familiar with, like instead of writing the whole word language out, you could just write lang, period. Or instead of writing the whole word examples out, write ex, period. As long as it's shorthand you're familiar with. And then in the summary, you definitely want to be able to say, something about what you learned that day. And this is important. Questions I need to ask. You're like, I didn't understand this concept here, or what is supposed to go on the x-axis, or something that you had a question about and you want to be sure to bring up next time. You write that down. Okay? I use this method myself, and it is actually kind of life-changing, because once I learned this method, I use it all the time, even without thinking about it. So I'm going to show you a before I learned this method and after, and see, what do you think is a better note-taking method? So before I was taking the Cornell note-taking method, or double column method, I would just list things out as I heard them. I would make references sometimes, or number things out sometimes, and things like that. So that was some organization already, but often I would scratch things out. I would write who was the teacher that I was getting this from. And of course, leaving off heading and stuff, knowing if I ever lost this paper, no one would be able to return it to me. And you'll notice that I'd often have to scratch through things, or I'd have to, like over here, I would have like doodlings, which was relevant to what that was being talked about, but then you can see it took up way too much space, and I wound up not getting to be able to get all my notes down. So you can see, and it's hard to even follow. If I wanted to pick out a certain idea that I had and research it, I would be like, well, where was it? And I have to read through the whole thing just to find it. And then Cornell came my way, and it really helped me to start taking better notes. So you can see the familiar style here. You've got the title, and of course I continued to write who it was that was speaking. And I still didn't have my name and stuff on there, but this is my personal spiral, so there wasn't really a need to, because I keep that at the front of my spiral, all my name and everything. But you can see I had, like, if I wanted to, I really liked what he said about encouragement, or being encouraged, then I know I could find that right here in this section. I don't have to read through fears or the steps or on that. And then you see I'm numbering that again, and I'm starting to use bullets instead of just not knowing where I ended a sentence or anything like that. And I even start making footnotes there. And then finally, which became very helpful, was the summary that gave me time to reflect on what was said. And so I don't forget some of the things that impacted me the most in the moment that I was taking these notes. In fact, that's what this area is called, is the in the moment. Some people call it the in the moment notes. But that's let me know what I reflected on at the time, and it also gave me an opportunity to write down, hey, he said something back there, and I want to look it up in maybe a scripture or a book or a dictionary or something like that. You can tell me what method you like better between those two, just writing everything down or doing the Cornell note. Or if you've got a better method that you've been using, you can tell me about that. But for our class, we're going to continue using the Cornell note method. That way, it's easy for me to go. And here's some of the advantages to it. Your teacher can go through there and find stuff real easily and say, yep, you got that. Yep. Oh, you forgot this. That's really, this is going to be on the test, so you might want to, go back and write this down. So it's really easy for them to see what you got out of the lesson and if you got everything that they wanted you to get, because they can find it more easily. They don't have to read through the whole thing. The other advantage is you can do the same, especially it helps you when you're trying to study for a test. You're like, I don't feel really confident about that particular idea. Where is that on there? Well, there it is. It's already noted off to the side. I found it halfway down the page easily. And it also is very active way of taking and a very engaging way of taking notes. And that's probably what I like about it the most. I hope that was helpful, and have a good day.